something else in the box. All right, here we are with Jay Frank, and this is going to be fun for me because not only are we friends, but I'm also a client, kind of, because I own his books, I purchased his books, I fell in love with one of his artists, I took one of his artists out with me on the campground tour, and now I've been turned on to a lot of cool people. A lot of the folks that I share some teachings with through the Music Industry Blueprint were because of a lunch that I had with Jay when I told him about this idea on what I wanted to do. We went and we sat down, and he's like, you need to follow Ariel Hyatt and Ramit Sethi and all these different kind of people. He just kind of gave me this thing. And the reason that I like talking to Jay is because Jay's one of those no bullshit guys. He'll challenge you to do things. I gave you credit, you weren't here, that the 7 free songs that I've been able to get to radio for my hack came after reading Hack Your Hit. I was challenged to go find my own hack, and now I'm doing conferences on it at Country Radio Seminar.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So that's why it was important for me to have you here. Jay and I go back the Taylor days. We flew on a jet together. We were going to do the Yahoo sessions. I was just blown away by what he was doing with Yahoo Music. Then he came to town and was with CMT, and he'll tell you a lot of this stuff. But I've always found myself trying to grab his time when I can have it. You know, whenever I'm able to get it, because he travels a lot, he speaks a lot. That's what I want to give you guys with him today, is I'm not going to ask probably as many questions as I did with Clay and with Jim, because he's got knowledge and information. There are some places that I'm going to take him in this conversation, because you guys will get some great nuggets out of it. But please put your hands together, my friend. Shoot.
Where do I start?
Wherever. Tell them a little bit about, the Yahoo Music was a cool thing, because it was like we were just kind of figuring out the internet and the music, and that there was this new way to get the music out there. Tell them a little bit, just get them from Yahoo to CMT, but I want to get into your writing and digital.
Well, I mean, I've been doing digital music in some way, shape, or form for close to 20 years now, which was kind of freaked me out when I realized that about a year ago. I take my start date back in 1995. When I worked at a company that did database marketing. And you got to understand, database marketing, a lot of people now talking about, I'm sure you've already heard about, build your email database, build your email database. Well, in 1995, nobody had databases for anything. And if any of you remember, in CDs, you used to get a postcard in the CD and said, write your address on it, you sign up to the mailing list. Well, the company I worked for basically handled 75% of those postcards, and they were the ones that started that whole trend. And we got an account from a brand new artist that nobody had ever heard of before, that got signed to Madonna's record label. And they said, hey, we're starting from scratch on here, and we want you to start this stuff, and we want you to take it on. And there's a little artist by the name of Alanis Morissette. And what happened was that I said, well, look, we can do these postcards, we can do, they wanted to do sign-up sheets at the venues where you could write your name on a piece of paper. And I said, let's do something different, and let's put down an email address. I said, what? I said, put down an email address. Let's get people to sign up to the mailing list by sending in an email. And then we created an AOL email address, FYIAM@AOL.com. Still remember it, probably still doesn't work, but... and of course, as you guys probably know, Alanis Morissette hit radio, and literally in 30 days, overnight, she became a huge sensation. It was ridiculous how fast it went. She was doing these small clubs in a van, and everybody was hoping that maybe they'd get a good crowd when they booked the tour, and by the time she did the tour, when it already had on radio, every club was sold out with 2,000 people trying to get in. So, needless to say, in a short period of time, I was handling 2,000 emails a week coming in, and this is 1995. And there's not only is there no real pattern, nobody had, a rule book on how to do it, but we also had to do it all by hand. We literally had to go through AOL hand by hand and take the email and put the email and copy it and paste it into a
MailChimp. None of those.
No, none of those things existed at that time. It was crazy. I mean, so, I could talk a long time, but just going to, you were saying about Yahoo, I eventually went to Yahoo in 2001, and it was in the middle of the dot-com bust. everybody was telling me I was completely crazy. They said, you're going to go work for a .com. Every .com has just imploded. Why in heaven's name would you ever want to do that? I said, because it's where everything is going. I said, but nobody's succeeding at this. I said, no, this is going to work. And what I did was I went down there and I put my head down and literally just worked on making a great product. And about 2 years later, after everything had kind of subsided, in probably about early 2003 was when things really started to take off and the business really became something substantial. And pretty routinely, I mean, even right now, where I've been, I started up my own new business, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and I've been doing that for just over a year now, and I've gotten a lot of accomplishments in the first year, but I fully well expected to basically say I didn't really think I was going to do anything really major for the first 2 years. And I think in anybody who puts whatever their business is, whether it's a company that they're going to work for, a startup company, a band, whatever it's going to be, is that you really got to just say, let's put 2 years minimum in to just building your craft, because it's nice to think that things happen overnight, and sometimes you get lucky and they do, but most of the time, most things don't, and it's all about just digging in and just knowing that you're going to make the best product that whatever your audience is going to be wants.
No, and the thing that excited me after you decided to walk from, and we'll bypass CMT, but we're going to talk about this, is that you have always been one of those people where you're not afraid to take risks. And I say that as you left a pretty cush job where you were doing nothing but getting promoted in that position at CMT to start a record label that was going to give away its music. That's where I want to get into right now, because everybody was like, dude, Jay Frank is smoking something, because he's going to start a label, and the whole business model is he's going to give away his music, and he just left a very nice, comfortable job, and this is a guy who's married. So he's
a child.
Yes, so he stepped away from something very comfortable to take a leap of faith on something that he believed in. And if you walk away from anything over these next 2 days, we're both in that situation. We were willing to say, you know what? We can keep the six-figure income. We can stay in this nice, comfortable situation. But passion-wise, the passion just wasn't there. And that's when I sat with him and I said, okay, dude, what are you about to do? And I saw the passion when he talked about this, because it was after your first book.
Yeah, no, it was after my first book, and I was already planning on doing my second book, but a lot of it comes down to what your long-term career plan is. Anytime I have somebody who interviews with me, one of the questions that will always come up, so if any of you ever get an interview with me, you can prepare, is where do you want to be in 5 years? And I need to know where you're going to be in 5 years, because that's all I think about. I don't think about where I'm at today. I think about where I'm going to be in 5 years, and I think about that professionally, financially, emotionally, everything. I'll give you, and the way I think about it financially, I'll give you a very famous psychological experiment. I'm just going to see this. I'm going to tell you about this. I want to show of hands. There's a very famous experiment where, let's say right now, I have a coin, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'll give any of you $42 right now, just flat out, just give you $42. No strings attached. However, if you'd like instead, I'll flip the coin. If it's heads, you'll get $100. If it's tails, you get $0. Now the question is, show of hands, how many people will take the $42? Show of hands.
I'll take it.
He's a doctor.
Okay. And how many of you are going to take the coin flip? Okay. Most people, it's actually uncommon, but given the fact that you're all here, I kind of understand why more of you picked that, because you're all risk takers. And that's actually the right answer. The correct answer is to do that, but psychological study after study in this experiment has always shown that most people take the $42. And the reason why they do is because, A, I didn't have any money before, and now you're just going to give me $42 for nothing? All right, I'll take that. But the reality is, in terms of you didn't have the money to begin with, so you have nothing to lose. And if you flip the coin is a 50-50 chance, meaning that as long as I've given you anything under $50, the better value is to flip the coin, because you're going to get $100. And the reality, I go and and equate that to salaries. You go and you're asking me, why do I leave a cushy job? Because I go and I ask the question, put it in fairly simple terms. If I said, you can come work for me, Rick, you can come work for me, and you have two options. I can give you a salary of $1,000 a week, and you'll make $50,000 for the year. Or instead, you can make $100,000 a year, but you're going to get it in one lump paycheck in week 52. Now, which one would you take?
I'm taking week 52.
You're taking week 52, but again, most people take $1,000 a week because they don't know mentally how to handle figuring out how to take money day by day, week by week, in order to get to that point.
And do you hear what he's saying on what it says about you guys that are here right now?
Yeah.
First thing he said to me when I walked to the door, he's like, dude, this is a great crowd.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I've come to these things and there hasn't been anyone. You guys are here for a reason. And he's solidifying that reason for me right now, knowing that the people that chose to be here, however you had to get here, some had to work out payment plans with me, some had to come, whatever it was that you chose to get here. Hats off to you guys for being here. I really mean it. And I mean, and he's not joking when he's like, you guys are different than his normal crowd.
You're right, because the reality is that, and this is especially true if you're going to be a musician, you have to sacrifice. I'll give you a very extraordinarily topical example. Anybody know the musician Bauer? Anybody know the musician Bauer? Nobody. All right, now don't call it out because obviously you know the story. And this guy's the one that's on most top things. All right, so Bauer is an electronic musician, and he's hung out with some pretty credible people, and he's had a middling career. You know, he's like one of those guys. He's had a name, kind of people know him. And, but he's been around for a few years. But, to say that the guy's made any money, a little bit here and there. I mean, he's been able to live off of his music. And that all changed about 2 weeks ago. He had a song that came out back in July. And that song came out and didn't really do much of anything. And now, that song, right now, as of today, is the #3 selling song on iTunes. Now, what happened between those two? Now, let me ask you another question. How many of you have heard of the Harlem Shake? Okay? So Bauer is the guy who made the Harlem Shake song. And this guy, nothing going on, nothing happening. 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden, some kids in their dorm room decide that they're going to do a goofy video around this song. And now that video and all of the other subsequent videos have now been seen in 2 weeks 100 million times on YouTube.
It's the new Gangnam Style.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. It's the
and it's already been on the Today Show, and it's all over the place. And again, it's #3. I did a rough back of an envelope calculation, and I roughly guessed. I don't know what his expenses are like, but my guess is in the last 2 weeks he's grossed approximately $500,000 in 2 weeks. Now, part of it is because this guy, I don't know him, I'm just presuming, but he loves music, and he was going to say, I'm going to believe in what I do, and I'm going to believe in the payday. I'm going to believe that what's going to happen is going to come to me at the end of the line, and it's going to happen. So it's not like he was worrying about saying, oh, geez, how am I going to make $50,000 for the last 10 years, as an example, which isn't there. It's just literally, it's like it shows up in that one big paycheck and makes all of those years of struggle worth it. Not to mention now, this is only going to be the beginning for this guy in this song, because now every major label wants him, every major publishing company wants him. He's probably going to get $1 million deal from a publishing company and $1 million deal from a record company, not to mention licensing, not to mention the fact that he's now worth $50,000 at a live gig versus $5,000. I mean, everything about this guy just increased tenfold in the last 2 weeks. And it was probably due to, I don't know how many years of hard work.
And that's the thing, is that this doesn't happen overnight. I hear more and more people tell me, well, I can't afford to do this. In reality, you can't afford not to. That's kind of how I look at it sometimes. It's like, I've maxed out credit cards. Like I said, I've had to sleep on the couch many a night because you did what? The wife. I can only imagine the conversation you had with your wife.
Well,
when you said, "Hey, honey,
guess what we're going to do?" But here's the thing. Ellie Goulding. I'm just going to give you a bunch of examples of new artists. Ellie Goulding is now a big star, and Interscope Records took 2 years to break her. Okay, Foster the People was a big hit a year and a half ago, and it took Sony a year and a half to break them. It took Universal, a year and a half to break Florence and the Machine. Of Monsters and Men, which is on Universal, it took them about a year and a half. If you go back and look, short of a complete out of nowhere left field hit, it takes a minimum of 9 months to break an act. Let me give you another example. Phil Phillips. All right, Philip Phillips, who won American Idol back in May. All right, now he wins American Idol in May. People really like him. The song comes out, it sells well, and then it kind of drops off the chart. Then 6-8 weeks later, it becomes the song of the Olympics, and everybody's playing it on the Olympics, and then it kind of drops off. And then it finally starts to get traction at radio, and as a song life, its hit worthiness actually peaked about 6-7 weeks ago. 7 months after he won American Idol. And so what I'm saying is, on this front, is that if it takes the winner of American Idol 7 months to fully break their first hit, if it takes a major label 9 months to 2 years to break their first hit, their first song, how long is it going to take you? If a major label, with all of the people that work for them and all of their resources, there's not one new country artist that's taken less than 9 months. Clay, am I right? Right? Not one. If a major label with all of the money, and they all spend $1 million usually by the time that first single hits its peak at minimum, with all their money and all of their staff, they've got PR people, digital people, radio people, all of that, if they can't break it within that time, how are you going to do it? You're not. What you have to do, it doesn't mean you can't do it, it just means that you can't do it unless you commit, not just to yourself as an artist, but commit to your song for months and months, over and over, that you're going to make sure that you constantly find people that you can be able to bring that song to and make that happen. Let me tell you the story of the artist that Rick took out on the campground stuff. So an artist that I've been working with, her name is Jen Bostic. And I met Jen Bostic here in Nashville about 3 years ago when she was trying to be a country artist. And basically everybody said she was too pop for country and too country for pop. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. Your voice is amazing and your songs are great. How could they say that? And then I got to know her, and about 2 months later I said, well, I got to tell you, you're too pop for country and you're too country for pop. And she's like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I was like, well, listen, here's the reality is that you can write a great country song, but you can't deliver it credibly as a country artist. But you are an amazing artist and you are an amazing writer. Let's just let you be you. So we focused on making her, on just getting songs. We focused more in a pop direction. And at this point now would be about 2.5 years ago. So just to give you an idea of the process. 2.5 years ago, she wrote a song called Jealous of the Angels. And it was about the death of her father. And I heard it and I liked it, but it wasn't quite there. It was still in demo form. But she kept saying to me, Jay, you can pitch every single one of my songs, but you can't pitch this one. I have to release this one first, because it means the world to me. I said, okay. And what we did was, I called in a favor of mine, a good friend of mine on the West Coast, Barrett Uretzian, who produced Christina Perry's Jar of Hearts. And I said, and he was really hot at that moment, because Jar of Hearts had just came out and exploded. And I said, I need you to work on this project. I need you to find a week. So she went out to LA a little over 2 years ago and recorded with him and just put together this amazing version. So I said, okay, this is fantastic. So now we're going to be, and I'm just giving you the whole timeline, just to give you an idea of, again, how long this process takes. 2 years ago, we went up to our hometown in Minnesota to film the video, and then we spent some time to just edit the video and put together a marketing plan, and the song officially came out in June of 2011. And from that point forward, we just kept pushing it and getting data back from people as to whether or not they liked it or not. The most important thing that you all should realize is when you make a decision to say, I'm going to go push a song, not just you, a song for over a year, you better damn make sure that the people you're going to push it to are going to like it. And the first place you got to go is your family. Rule number one, if your family don't like it, don't push it. Then you give it to your friends. If your friends don't like it, don't push it. Because trust me, I have a rule on my record company, which is that if I can't get my staff to like the song, I'm not getting the public to do it. I had the same rule at CMT. If I couldn't convince the staff that a song was worth putting on the air, then we can't convince the public and we didn't air it. Period. If you can't convince those who's close, you can't convince the world. But with her song, we saw clearly after the first month that people were really responding to this song. And the song, as I mentioned, is about the death of her father. It's a very powerful, emotional song. And we just kept pushing it forward and pushing it forward. And after about 10 months, all of this effort was doing well. It was selling about 50 to 100 downloads a week. She was getting a few more gigs, and we had worked its way up to about 300,000 YouTube views. Pretty good pretty good for an independent artist with a very modest budget. One Monday morning, this is now would be back in May, so this is what, 8 months ago? One Monday morning, all of a sudden Twitter is going nuts. What the heck's going on? Digging backward, like going backwards through all the tweets. We found out that a national radio station in the UK played the song on their morning drive. Like, how in heaven's name did that happen? We never called the radio station. We never delivered anything to the radio station. We didn't even set foot in the radio station. We didn't even know the radio station name existed. There's a radio station called Smooth Radio, which is the biggest adult contemporary radio station there. We didn't even know this station existed. And this radio station, as we came to find out, doesn't play new artists, doesn't play new music. And yet, they played our song from a little independent record label in Nashville. How is that possible? What happened was, we had been building up a fan base, and we knew from our data that the UK was their second biggest market after the US. And what happened was that we kept nurturing those fans, and nurturing those fans, and we knew that we'd find the right fans. The fans would tell people, and they tell other people, and they tell other people. Well, one of those fans called the radio station or emailed the radio station, we're not sure, and said, we think you should play this on your segment in the morning show. And they heard the song based on the listener who was passionate about it that we found through all of our viral marketing, and they liked it, and they played it. And not only did they play it, but they got such a huge reaction that they played it again and again. Before we had even talked to the radio station, they had played it 5 times in a week. Again, never played new music, never plays new artists, never plays independent record labels from Nashville, Tennessee, run by guys who write books. So, we sold 1,000 downloads in a week. We knew we had something. We then regrouped. We found the right team in the UK, hired a team in the UK, and to make a long story short, because I'm sure there's a lot of ground to cover, to talk about today, she's had a #1 song on the iTunes singer-songwriter chart. She's appeared on BBC Breakfast, which is the equivalent of basically the Today Show and Good Morning America combined. And she is now, and for those of you that know about the Christmas #1, in the UK it's a really big deal that you try to get to #1 at Christmas, and odds makers actually give odds. She had 33-1 odds that she would be #1 at Christmas, ahead of people like Justin Bieber and Rihanna. And now we've come to find out that in the UK it's a weird little thing, but again it's based on the song. She's actually now the #1. She's the most requested song from people at funeral homes. Basically, everybody is requesting this song.
It's like the father-daughter dance song. If you write that song, you've written that song.
She has written that song. Yeah. And we're at 1.2 million views, and she's going to be playing the Opry tonight, and then tomorrow she's on a plane to go launch her second single and do a 3-week tour in the UK, where most of the venues are telling us that they'll probably be selling out.
And 4 months ago, for $500, she played at a friend's wedding, who we had turned on to her music, and that's the kind of person she is. JENNBOSTIC. She's an amazing, amazing gal, and what's even neater about that whole story, and I shared this earlier, he signed her while he was still at CMT. He wasn't, I don't want to say a real music publisher, but he was the VP at CMT, but he heard something and he saw something that he got passionate about. And the biggest thing that I love about this is he waited until things established in the UK before he hired the team. Let's take this to the United States. A lot of you are out there recording records and hiring promotions teams before you built any kind of want for your product.
Oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that.
And it's not because you don't know any better, it's because that's the advice and guidance that you're getting from a lot of people, unfortunately, that are in survival mode. This town knows one thing, it knows radio. That's the least. I sent out a tweet, was it last week or the week before when I was watching the golf?
Yeah.
I'm sitting there watching the golf. Now, I go to Jay's events. He's constantly hosted, and you guys will follow him, and we'll make sure you've got all his Twitter and Facebook information. But I went to one of his showcases, and he always has these really cool artists that he's working with, and Bronze Radio was one that I've just been getting the emails and kind of following along. By golly, if I'm not sitting there watching the golf tournament the other day, and all of a sudden for the PGA, it was like Bronze Radio, and they said the name of the band, and I'm like, dude, that's Jay's band. And I sit there and I shoot out a tweet. The next thing you know, he responds back, and I pick up 8 more followers.
I think the band responded to you as well.
Yes, but see, that's the thing, is that if you see something, they basically, what he's done is what Seth Godin preaches. He's done something that's remarkable. He does something that's worth remarking.
The thing though is that, I mean, like, I have to say, I mean, I look at myself, and I hope that to some degree what I say today is the same thing for you, is that it's not what I do, it's what I say that causes something that you do. It's not about what I do. It's like, yeah, or, yes, all right, I know that all right, I know the person to call so I can get that UK team tired. I'll take that credit. But the reality with, like, Jen Bostic as an example, or even Bronze Radio, who doesn't need me to tell them that when they see Rick writing on Twitter about seeing the PGA spot, who they don't know, and hopefully they're playing tomorrow night at 3rd and Lindsley at 8 p.m. plug, that you'll come out and you'll say hi.
I will.
That they knew immediately to respond. Jen Bostic as an example, all right? So the guy who played her on the radio station first in the UK is a DJ by the name of Simon Bates, who's a very legendary DJ in the UK. But he's on morning radio. Jen would go and stay up at 1 in the morning here in Nashville so that she could be listening to his radio show and tweet with him at 1 in the morning when it was 8 in the morning over there. And by tweeting with him, he basically got even more endeared. Even when he wasn't playing the song on the air, he was talking about her on the air. He said, I just got a lovely tweet from Miss Jen Bostic, who's listening in Nashville, and it's very late over there, dear. You must go to sleep. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that was going on. And she is on Twitter and on Facebook all the time. I don't think there is a fan that she does not respond to. And I will tell you that none of the stuff that has been happening with her and the momentum that she would have is happening without that. The big thing, just to kind of segue a little bit, because talk a little bit about some of the digital stuff, because I know you want to get to that, is when you talk about social networking, a lot of you are probably consumed with how many likes you have. It's kind of important. What's more important, and the most important term that you could come up with, is what's called engagement. What you need to do is you need to be engaged with your fans. You need to be engaged with the people that you've got, because the biggest thing that you could do to move your career forward is having the people who like you talk about you more. If you go and you just look at this example, Rick tweets about my band, I respond to him, Rick picks up 10 followers, 8 followers, all right? So if he didn't say anything, nothing would have happened. I'll give you another example of just a random thing that happened. I had somebody who wrote about one of my books on their blog, and they tweeted about it. And I tweeted back something about them responding to my blog. And then that ended up leading into a conversation, and then all of a sudden we're having a dialogue. And then that dialogue is then spreading to, like, oh, you write, you make music? Oh, let me talk, And then I started listening to the music. We had further conversations. Boom, that person I ended up signing to my record company. This person would not have been signed, because I never would have found them, if they didn't actually take initiative and actually just go and put something out there. And the thing about all of this, I mean, I've seen the data, I'm a data junkie, I look at all this stuff to know what happens, is the biggest thing that you can do to foster your career is to make sure that the people who like you already are talking about you more. To give you an example of an idea of the competition, it's physically possible for you to only listen to 5% of the recorded music that comes out any given week. So when you put out something, if there's a person out there who is actually listening to everything that was released that week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with no sleep, if they were doing that, there's only a 5% chance they'd hear your music. The reality is there is so much competition out there. The biggest hurdle that any of you have is for somebody to know who you are. And the reality is that we're also all distracted with talking about the other acts that are going on, because I feel bad for like any other electronic artist this week, because now everybody's talking about the Harlem Shake. That means if you're talking about the Harlem Shake, you're not talking about another electronic artist. My favorite example of this was 2 years ago when, I'm sure you all know Rebecca Black's Friday, right? Now, show of hands, how many people think that was the worst song released that year? Show of hands. Okay, you're all wrong. Because I want you all to go online and listen to Kim Kardashian's song. Because trust me, Kim Kardashian's single was far worse than Rebecca Black's. However, the Kim Kardashian single came out a week before Rebecca Black's. And what happened was Rebecca Black had a different story because Kim Kardashian's a celebrity, Rebecca Black's an unknown 13-year-old with a wacky video and a creepy rapper in it. Right? So the reality was that as soon as Rebecca Black hit and said, everyone's like, oh my god, this is terrible, nobody listened to Kim Kardashian, and Kim Kardashian's song vanished. Conveniently vanished, as everybody talked about, because those who did hear it knew how horrible that was. Made Paris Hilton look like freaking Radiohead. So, the point is that Rebecca Black knocked any possibility of Kim Kardashian's song being in the public consciousness. And that's for the worst song in the world. So imagine what happens in the best song in the world. If everybody's starting to talk about a great song that's coming from somewhere else, that means it's lessening the chances of them talking about your song. And so what you have to do is, the more that you engage people and you engage them consistently in social media and you get people to talk about you, then subsequently they are not talking about somebody else. And they are constantly remembering you. The biggest problem a lot of people have right now, again, is remembering which artists are out there. I can tell you I listened to probably 20 new artists in the last 7 days, at least. But other than the one band right now that I'm trying to sign from Scotland, I can't remember any of them. I don't know any of their names. If you told me their name, I'd go, oh yeah, I heard that song, that was all right. But I don't remember any of their names. So how am I going to talk about them? How am I going to actually mention them to you to even recommend that you hear any of them? What's got to happen is that there's got to be continuous engagement. And I study Facebook numbers. We now do consulting for a lot of artists right now for this, is that we look at the numbers, and the more that you're engaging the fans, the more that it spreads, the more that it spreads, the more that it grows. And I'll tell you that all of my artists that succeed are doing this, and the ones that don't just can't wrap their heads around it. The more that you can do to engage fans so that they talk about you more than they talk about somebody else is just going to consistently increase your odds. And I'll tell you that, if Jen Bostic was not out there doing that every single day on Twitter and Facebook, she would not be in the position she's in right now.
Well, and that's what I try to explain to a lot of people. There's a difference between being active and being engaged. We talked a little bit earlier, when Taylor and I started with MySpace, I'm glad she didn't have downloads to clutter it, that all she had was herself to give to them and the relationships that were built and how they were able to grow. It's real interesting. Those that are students of mine, basically, he's saying a lot of the stuff that I preach, and we haven't planned this little meeting here, but it goes back to, once again, about being engaged, about staying active on these folks, because they're moving on. They're busy too. How many of you sit there and read every single person that posts on your Facebook all day long? Neither do they. You watch it. Every person who's a friend of yours. There's a difference. Not every fan that comments to you, but every single person. You go down and do the whole entire thing? Great, you can work for me, because I have close to like 5,000 people that post on my thing every day.
I'll go one better. All right, so we all know Facebook is the #1 social network. How many of you think that Twitter is the #2 social network? Show of hands. About half of you. How many people, other ideas of what the #2 social network is?
I think this is a trick question, so I'm going with whatever you're doing.
I've been doing a lot of trick questions, so you're good to catch on. Anybody? YouTube. YouTube is the #2 social network. But most people don't think of it as a social network. Oh, I put my videos up there. Yeah, that's nice. It's a social network.
There's
people comment, people like, people subscribe. All of these kind of things, which, by the way, the more likes, comments, and subscribers that you have, the more likely it's going to be showing up in search feeds and be showing up as recommended videos to people. And yet, 80% of the artists spend no time doing anything social on YouTube. It's insane.
Well, and I mentioned that earlier, and we're going to show them tomorrow how to do their descriptions, and that it's comments and activity and engagement. That's what these things are starting to look for. We found out real quick that you could buy likes, you could buy subscribers, you could buy friends. It happened when MySpace came out. You say, hey, how many friends you got? And some programmer said, hey, I can write a program that'll get you more friends, and every hour things will line up. Real interesting statistic, and I was going to share this with them yesterday, and I'll share it with you. It's a gal by the name of Tiffany Alvord. Tiffany Alvord has 1.2 million subscribers on YouTube. She has close to, I think, 600,000 likes on Facebook, 250,000 Twitter followers. So all she's doing, so I went and saw how many CDs she had. So last night, and I'm going to show you guys the email, I asked Kelly Rich, who's the head of sales at Big Machine. You would think, how many records do you think a gal that has that would be selling? Okay. 1,996 total scans on her most recent record that's 6 months old. The reason why is she's very active on these social sites, but she's not engaged. She doesn't have an email address. She doesn't have the ability to communicate. She tosses out a message and she hopes they find it. Those YouTube kids are making a lot of money now because booking agents are booking them based on their numbers, and they're selling a lot of t-shirts. Not a lot of them are selling a lot of records.
And not a lot of them, by the way, they're finding out are selling a lot of concert tickets. I won't mention the name, but there's one guy who's a major YouTube artist that my friend saw the numbers and said, geez, well, we've got to be able to book this guy. They went and booked the guy. He did a tour. By the way, the tour did sell out, and so everybody was happy, but then he was so busy practicing in his room that he didn't have any practice live, and he was terrible. And now now no club wants to book him again because everybody knows he sucks live.
There you go. So there's a lot of shortcuts that you can try, but what Jay's saying, and this is why I brought him here, is because he's a numbers guy. He's a crunchers guy. Before I let them ask questions, let's talk about Hack Your Hit. You wrote this book. Most of these, everybody here, I don't think anybody here has a major label record deal, right? Okay, thought so.
Good. Here's another stat. You don't want one. But I'm serious, because the reality is that let's actually go down the list and let's just start with the Grammys and the album of the year. So this year, album of the year went to Mumford & Sons. That's an
there you go.
It's a indie label.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to last year, Adele, and Adele came from an indie label in the UK. And then before that was Arcade Fire, which was on a
Indeed.
And then before that was Taylor Swift, which technically is on an
indie major.
It's an indie. But the thing is,
they have
that,
major distribution.
Well,
but I know what you're saying.
And Adele has major distribution. The key to success right now, again, and just looking at the numbers, the key to success right now across just about every format is that you make success as an indie and then leverage that success for the best major label deal possible to blow it up.
Correct.
That is the key to success. The biggest selling songs of last year, Gautier, independent label in Australia, gets picked up by Universal to major success. Carly Rae Jepsen, independent record label in Canada that gets blown up to major success.
By the way, she could not, even with Usher and Scooter and Justin Bieber, they could not get her a major label deal. When they shopped her, they ended up doing it themselves, which I thought was pretty interesting.
That's exactly right. Looking at things right now, Macklemore, independent artist, basically, and then blown up. The consistency, and then and then here in country, Florida Georgia Line is the same thing. Consistently, the major labels are having the best success, and ultimately this works best, by the way, for you and them. Their best success is it's developed on an independent scenario. It's shown to have a high likelihood of success. They'd rather pay through the nose when it shows that it raises its hand, it could be big. And then they do what they do best, which is to amplify it to the nth degree, because you can't do that as an indie. Going back to what you were saying about my model, that's part of my model. I'm not hiring a radio staff because I know that my radio staff can never compete with what the major labels do. My job is to get a song to be big enough that a major label will desire it, to then take it home, and I can be able to leverage that for the best thing and then work to develop the next act.
At that point, he becomes a great partner. At that point, he's
That's
not
right.
in an 85-15 standard deal. There's a lot of advantages to what it is that he's doing, and it goes back to what I share with you guys. Become the perfect partner.
But the reality is that most artists now who are signing directly to a major label without a significant base to speak of, nearly all of them are flopping. A great example of one that happened in even a weird backward way is Alex Clare. Alex Clare was signed to a major label over in the UK, released 3 singles that flopped, an album that flopped. He gets dropped. He has to go and make a living collecting rents for his real estate friend from people who are behind on their rents, knocking door to door. Hey, you got to pay your money. This is a talented musician. He had to do this. And he did that for about 4 months until magically, his song gets picked up for a Microsoft commercial, ends up airing all over the world, and 6 weeks after that becomes top 5 in Germany, top 10 in the UK, and then Universal has to re-sign the guy in order to get it going, and then it basically went on to sell 3-4 million copies.
I'm glad you're able to hear this come from him and hear the live examples, because everybody, as they say, like Jim said, we had Jim Patino here earlier, and Jim was right. If you want to go into major stardom, long career, their belief at Sony and all the major labels is that you need them in order to do that. And hey, nobody here is going to turn down a major label deal. I'm warning you though, don't accept a major label deal until you've built a solid fan base, because then you have nothing to fall back on. Pat Green could lose his major label deal and continue to make a living. Jack Ingram could lose his major label deal and continue to make a living. Chuck Wicks lost his major label deal and now he's barely surviving. And here's a guy that was on Dancing with the Stars. But because Chuck never built an audience. There was never anything, and I'm not putting Chuck down, he's a dear friend, I'm just giving you examples that you can grasp onto, is because the thing that goes along for Jen Bostic right now is no matter what, she has that fan base. The thing I remember most is the Morning of Sandy book. A fan took her song, took all the news footage. This wasn't his label that put it out. It wasn't Jen's PR team that put it out. It was a fan who probably had the fastest, most watched video of Jen Bostic's career, came from a fan who put that song to all the news footage that we got used to seeing. So we could talk about Jen all day. We could talk about this. But the Hack Your Hit, the concept behind it was finding ways to get your music heard outside of radio and in front of an audience that will love you.
Well, I mean, the thing is that I came up with this book idea. I've written 2 books. One is called Futurehit.DNA, which is all about how the structure of hit songs has changed because digital technologies changed the way we hear music. And I could literally talk for another hour on that, so maybe that'll be the next time. But Hack Your Hit in particular, which was my follow-up book, was because I had, to me, a hack, when you talk about people in the computer world, hack is not like what you hear about where the Chinese are hacking into the New York Times. A hack for most people is actually figuring a workaround to do something positive that can't be done, that you can now do in a faster period of time. That's the definition of most people who do hacks. So to me, a hack in music is how can you be able to do something that will just move your career forward a little bit more, a little bit faster, in a relatively easy way. And so just over the years, most of them being digital, I just picked up just seeing all the different things that you can do. And most people I know when they get the book, there's 40 different ideas in there. Nobody uses all 40 ideas, but everybody reads it and picks out 3 or 4 that make sense to them, implement it, and then they go and say, oh my gosh, I paid for the book 10 times over in 2 weeks. And it's basically because I try to boil everything down to really simple ideas that you can do that can be able to grow your career in a different way. Not grow your career to say that you got 800 Facebook followers and I'm going to make it 80,000 in a month. That's not happening without some luck. But if you can go from 800 to 1,200, you've increased your likes by 50%. And that's major because most people don't grow by 50% in a week. I was consulting a new act that had about 500 Facebook fans, and they were hoping that I was going to get them to 5,000, but they weren't doing the necessary things. They were still growing by 4% a week. But the reality is that when you're at 500, 4% a week is only 15, 20 fans, and that's just not, so great. So after a month, I went from 500 to 575. But from a percentage basis, that's actually pretty good. But you could do better. But the idea that I try to do is that, and I can't necessarily think of one in particular right now off the top of my head, but it's just boiling it down to those ideas that you can just implement really simply.
Well, and the book is one of those things. It's like one of the great things about all the folks that I've made is you can go online and get a free paragraph, and if you like it, you upgrade the book. And I know he brought some books. It's one that I have on my must-reads. If you are on the website, you guys know that also. Music Success in 9 Weeks by RL is a brilliant book, and it's not going to show you how to get a record deal in 9 weeks. It's going to basically make you understand and get daily habits of doing things online. And it takes a little time to get that done. With Ditch Send, a couple questions that I want to ask you about that is, we now know how you broke into Europe with Jen, was engaging those fans in Europe. It wasn't because I didn't know that story until you just said it, because one of my questions was, I had somebody send me an email and go, let's find out how to break into Europe. And I'm like, oh, cool, Jay's coming. They broke into Europe.
I mean, you know, and it's funny because when we talk to, you know, now we've hired, obviously, as I said, we've hired a professional radio person, a professional PR person, but when we talk to those people, all of them have basically said, we need to continue to make this a record that people realize it's organic. You know, because everybody, I mean, I've been on the other side of the fence. I've run music for CMT. I've run music for Yahoo. I've been on the other side of the fence where everybody kisses your ass. There is a huge difference between feeling like somebody is pressuring you because their boss is pressuring them, and a song that you can really sense has momentum and activity. It's a huge difference, and the ones that are organic generally are the ones that, if you find them, can pay the bills in a much better way, so to speak. And they recognized that what we needed to do was we needed to keep everybody feeling like that this was the record that they found, rather than the record that they were forced to do. And by the way, with her first single, Jealous of the Angels, that also meant where we probably could have pushed it to the point that we sold another 10, 15,000 copies than we did if we forced it on people, but it probably would have killed her career. And we basically, we understood that we didn't go the full distance because we were running a marathon. And then we were making that commitment by now going back, starting up a second single. And what's ending up happening now, going back to the UK with this second single, by being organic and not forcing it, tomorrow she's going to have an article in the Mail on Sundays, Sundays magazine, which is somewhere in between the New York Times magazine and USA Weekend. So she's going to have like a 2-3 page feature in that magazine tomorrow. Smooth Radio was going to do the requisite, hey, we want you to come in and do an interview and a performance on the air. They basically said, we love you so much, we want you for 3 hours because we're going to do an hour special on you. BBC Radio has liked her so much that not only is she going to do an interview performance on one of their main stations, but she's also going to be doing performances on 3 of their other stations. And not to mention just all these different things. But it's all happening because we're not forcing anybody. They're coming to us. You know, she's setting foot in Ireland for the first time in a week and a half, 2 weeks. And the club promoter, we literally went, by the way, here's another thing that's very interesting. You know, we have now a 9-date club tour in the UK that we booked without a booking agent after she has a hit song. She still does not have a booking agent. So all of you who think that you need to get a booking agent, sorry, get off your ass, do it yourself. We got somebody with a hit song who can't get a booking agent. And they're idiots. And because we went and we booked her in a good club in Ireland, in Belfast, and a good club in Dublin, and we announced the tour dates, and an hour after we announced the tour dates, the biggest live promoter in Belfast emailed us and said, why didn't you call me? I love her and I'd want to promote these dates. Well, okay, let's have a meeting while we're over there. Let's see what we can do this summer. The reality was that we just figured out what we had to do to get the job done, and now the club promoter is much more likely to, or not the club, the live promoter is much more likely to get her onto festivals this summer, much more likely to get her things like, so rather than having him promote something that she's going to net $300-400, now she's probably going to get things where she might net $5,000 because now he's like, I got to be a part of this. The organic nature of the whole thing is making it grow bigger, and because we didn't force it in certain ways, allows us the opportunity to be able to grow it bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's the same thing online. Believe me, I've released records on my record label that have not worked. And it sucks. It's painful. It's painful for me. It's painful for that artist who had their hopes and dreams. But when it does work, when it does grow organically, it's literally, you just need a drop of gasoline and a huge explosion goes up. And it's a lot more fun.
One of the things that I'm going to give you guys a hack right now to hack Jen Bostic. And here's the recommendation that I do with this hack. If obviously she's getting this much traction and this much attention, first off, you should follow her. Second off, you should comment about one of her songs. Do not mention that you are a music artist. Do not try to pimp your stuff. Just basically start becoming a fan of this gal, because other fans tend to want to unite with other fans of people that like what they like.
I have that story. So Jen back in November, Jen did her first UK tour. And what happened was, and this actually came slightly different because it came conveniently there was a UK artist who was played had a song played basically on the same show that she was played at. And but she saw that she was coming to the UK, and she goes, oh my gosh, I heard that you were coming to. You responded to her on Twitter. I heard your song next to mine. I heard you're coming to the UK. I'd really love to be able to meet up with you. By the way, if you're free on this date, I'm playing at this club, and I'd love to have you over here and just give you an extra date. Okay, that's great. Hey, let's go. Blah blah blah. This and that. And then they went, and then the two of them are like super chummy. They literally like Skype every week. And now when she goes over there, she's actually going out on tour, opening up for Jen. And on top of that is then, when the tour ends, she's staying in London for 2 extra days for the two of them to write together. So it's one of these things that, again, if the other artist had not made the initiative to just go out and just establish any contact with her, none of that stuff would have happened.
Well, the bigger problem I see is most artists will go to another artist like them page and just start automatically going, hey, I'm an artist. I say, if you like her, you'll like me. Ain't wrong. Go in and organically make this thing happen.
I'll give you the one last thing, because then I want to get to questions. The first thing I always the thing that's most important that I like to say about social media in general is, rather than thinking about it as being on a computer, thinking about it as if you were at a party. And never do anything that you wouldn't do in person at a party. So let's say, for example, that I go and you're wearing a Radiohead t-shirt, and I like Radiohead. I'm not going to come up to you at a party and go, hey, how you doing? My name's Jay. I saw you wearing a Radiohead t-shirt. That's really cool. By the way, my band really sounds a lot like Radiohead. Can I give you my CD? Would you do that at a party? Heck no, the guy would run away. He's scared. What do? You go, hey, you like Radiohead? Yeah, dude, you like Radiohead too? Sure. You seen them live? Yeah, I've seen them live a bunch of times. Then you talk, and eventually after talking for 5 minutes, so what do? Oh, I play some music. Oh, really? What kind of music do you play? If the relationship naturally develops, it happens. But again, think about it as if you were at a party. Don't do anything you wouldn't do in person online, because it will backfire on you every time. I always say everyone wants to buy, they just don't want to be sold to. So you need to put them in that position where they want to buy. You use Music X-Ray. Right now. It's funny because Russell's been crazy over here wanting to find out information, because Sony Music knew nothing about it. Some other people hadn't heard about it. You use it as a way. What is Music X-Ray for you, and how are you utilizing it with digital? Well, I use Music X-Ray for a couple of reasons. The main reason is because it helps me filter through submissions. When I talked to Mike McCready, who's the guy who founded, him and I have been friends for a while. Before he even started Music X-Ray, he kind of said, and rightfully so, is that that charging somebody a little bit of money actually weeds out who's really serious and who's not. Because somebody who's willing to put a little bit of money into their career is actually somebody who's a bit more serious about it. Because it used to be, back in the day, it used to be 20 years ago, you wanted to get your music out to somebody, you had to go to the post office, put together a package, and you spent $5 on the package. So that naturally weeded out a bunch of people who wouldn't do it. Now, I'll tell you, the biggest problem I have as a digital record label is I don't want to make CDs at all, because I think they're antiquated, personally. But if I'm going to promote my music to radio, I have to make CDs. That makes no sense. Every radio station in the world right now operates off of a computer system. They don't play CDs anymore. Why in heaven's name do they need CDs? And the answer is because it weeds out who's serious and who's not. And the reality is that a few of them tried to go to just send me MP3s, but the reality of and WAV files. But what the reality of what happened is that meant that everybody submitted, and they got 20 times the number of submissions, and they couldn't figure out what was real and what wasn't, and they couldn't listen to any of it. And the same thing happens to me, is if I actually just go and say, hey, I'm looking for new music, I would get so overwhelmed. I got a staff of 2 full-timers and 2 part-timers. I could literally have somebody who works full-time that does nothing but listens to unsolicited submissions. I don't have the money, I don't have the time for that. So, the amount I charge actually just covers the labor costs to listen to it. Literally, I don't make money from doing it on Music X-Ray either. It's literally just to basically pay for the person who actually ends up paying attention to it. And the other thing that's good about Music X-Ray is it guarantees the person on the other end that you actually know that that person actually gave it at least a halfway decent listen to it, because A, you can't you don't get paid unless you respond, and comment. So either myself or
They
somebody on my
nicely
team.
remind me when I have
Yeah.
not gotten to it.
Right, and B, it won't let you comment unless you've actually listened to the majority of the song. It kind of ends up working well both ways for both parties, in my opinion. It's not the most perfect system. I've been criticized because they're like, how can you take money for submissions? And I'm like, well, because I basically, as in many things for a record label owner, I'm in a no-win situation.
Right.
If I don't charge for it, then I get overwhelmed and I can't afford to do it, and everybody hates me. If I charge for it, people hate me because I'm charging for it. And if I say I'm not accepting submissions, then I get people hating me for that. So I'm damned no matter which way I do it.
There you go. Now, before everyone starts wanting to bombard you with, hey, would you sign me to your record label? Explain how your record label works. It's a little different than what they may be accustomed to, and then tell them how they can submit to you and when the time is right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the difference with us is that we sign singles deals. We don't sign album deals. So everybody who's signed to our record label, we sign them for 6 songs, and then that's it. And
explain the publishing that goes along with
yeah,
this.
we sign what I call is that we do what I call the 360 of the song versus the 360 of the artist. So we deal with both master and publishing rights for those particular songs. The flip side is we don't offer any long-term deals because before I started the label, I talked to a lot of independent artists, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, but the number one complaint that I got from people that they said that is their biggest fear is being tied down to a bad deal for too long. That scares them more than giving up rights. It scares them more than money. It scares them more than anything is that they sign some 7-year deal with somebody who's going to just be the worst person to deal with. So I basically started from that perspective and said, okay, let's form this deal that it's only 6 songs. Literally, it's 6 songs, and if we don't figure out the 6 songs in 18 months, then you can walk. So literally, it can't physically be longer than 18 months. And we do sign master and publishing, but the other side that I always tell people is that if we can actually pop that song, then any major publishing company or any major record label can sign you, and you owe me nothing. So that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. And the other thing that happens there is it incentivizes me to push it even further. When I've now got, whether it's Jen Bostic or Bronze Radio Return, who's now really starting to happen at AAA Radio and Syncs, I can now go and hire a radio promotion person because I know that I'm going to be making my money back in more than one way from if that radio station plays it. If I'm just a record company, then I have to spend all the same money with the radio promotion person, but I only get it back if it sells. The way that I structure it, I get it back from the sales and from the radio airplay, and so therefore I know that I have a greater rate of return, and I'm more likely to spend the money on the radio promotion when it makes sense.
And before you come down here afterwards and start telling him about your music, don't. Go to his website, listen to the artists that he's signing. It will give you great insight to where his mind is musically and things like that. Once again, it goes back to that. You're building a relationship. Follow him on Twitter. Like him on Facebook. Reach out and say, hey, I saw you at Music Industry Blueprint Live. You were awesome. He'll respond back. That's how you start building this relationship. The reason that a lot of people
and by the way, not to call people out in the room, but there's certain people in the room, Sage, I'm looking at you, who actually did that. I mean, this guy over there, you want to raise your hand? It was probably about, 3.5 years ago that I first met you?
Correct.
And that's basically exactly what happens is that he started out and, we've never done quote unquote official business together, but, he, basically approached me in a really, really nice way and, struck up conversation. He sent me music. I've given him a little bit of advice here and there on the music, and he reaches out probably, I don't know, maybe once every 6 months or so. And, and the reality is that if he's going to send an email, he may not be the guy I respond to first and respond to his email in 10 minutes, but, I do my best to try to get an email back to him at least within a couple of days as best as I can, depending on the week. But it's basically because it started out because, quite frankly, he was nice and respectable and didn't try to force anything. We just had, conversations about things that were meaningful. It's also Similar, that I'm more likely to respond because he's not sending me something every 2 weeks. When he's sending me something, it's like, okay, I know he probably spent the last 6 months working on this and wants to get some advice on what to do, if not some help. So that's generally how that works.
Good. That's a real quick thing. We're at 3:23. Basically, we've kind of gone through the break, but what I didn't factor in. No, that's okay. We started late with you. Is that we've been taking breaks at the end of every person. So what I want to be able to do is if there's a question that's just burning with you that you have to get answered, let's take it. If not, I want to give you guys a chance to get to meet him. He did bring a few books if anybody wants it. If you're not, and I'm going to be the one saying this, so if you're not interested in picking up one of his books, don't sit there and tell him your life story. Let somebody who may want to meet him get something out of his books. Like I said, I bought the book, I've used the book, I created a business around the book. It's that amazing. If you can't get it today, go to his website, go to his Facebook, you can get it on your Kindle. There's a lot of great things. Is there an absolute Kyle?
What's the web page?
Well, my label is Digsin, and it's at digsin.com, digsin.com, and my books are at Futurehit.DNA.com, and also.
And I will send you links to all of that because I have all your email addresses. I'll send you links to all of his stuff, his Facebook, his Twitter, his everything. But this is somebody that you want to build a relationship with. Absolutely want to build a relationship with. He's made more people money that he's never been compensated for of one of the groups of friends that I hang out with. Everybody we always talk to goes, oh, you hear what Jay's doing? Oh, yeah, I read Jay's book. He did this. So,
and by the way, that's just a general key to life. The more that you can just willingly make money for others, the more that the money will eventually come to you.
All right, let's put our hands together for Mr. Thank you, sir. Pat, could you help get him set up outside if anybody wants to go?